nice and wide, shoulder width apart, and let's start with some double shoulder rolls. So going all the way backwards, followed by some singles. So one at a time, keeping the hips fairly square to the front. Hearing all that clunking and clicking that's going on. And then let's place the hands on the shoulders and double elbow circles. So this is the biggest circle that you can make with your elbows. And as I'm doing this, I'm allowing my rib cage to shift forwards and backwards a little bit. Remember, when you're in class, you want to try and move, and this is part of the moving better every day. You want to move more than you normally would do, and especially on a Monday if you haven't been doing much over the weekend. So let's go into some singles. And I'm just allowing my hips to follow a little bit with the shoulders and the elbows going backwards. Breathing, standing up nice and tall, and then our last part of this is the whole arm, double whole arms going backwards. Elbows are soft. If that's too much for you, go back to the elbows. If that's too much, stick to the shoulder rolls, whatever you like. If you're feeling all nice and tight and a little bit warm around here, then by all means have a bit of a neck stretch. But I'm going to go straight into some swimming. So backstroke arms to start with. This time I really do want to allow my shoulder, hip and my ankle to rotate around. Rotating around the centre, that central line, the plumb line of your spine. And then let's go forwards. And breathing. The whole time I'm thinking about lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling. Great, and then to finish off our rotational movement, of a rotational warming up of the spine, we're going to take some loose bow and arrow. So the arms start forwards, and you peel, swipe this arm along the hand, along the inside of that arm, across your chest, turn your head to look behind you. So I've stretched out my arms from front to back, opened up the shoulder, opened up the hip, opened up the ankles, and then I'm coming back round to square. As I take the other side, make sure that you think about reaching this arm forwards as well. When the hand goes past your chin, follow it with your head, and that should feel quite nice and not too uncomfortable. Make sure both palms are facing the same wall, the same direction. If you've got that back hand facing the other way, can you see what it happens to this shoulder? It drops down, and that's not very comfortable. And then that also helps me to open everything up. One more to the other side, and we're back to there. So rotation, really big, very important movement. Let's take the feet wider than your shoulders, taking the arms up for some big swings. Everything that we're doing, we're throwing ourselves into some quite big movements to start with. If you just want to keep it a little bit smaller to start with, absolutely fine. So I'm quite comfortable with this movement, just checking out ankles, knees, hips. I'm getting the movement a little bit bigger as I get warmed up with it, realising that nothing's going to hurt. So relaxing that head. If I had my hair down, you'd be seeing it flowing, but I've had to put it up today. It's a bit of a mess. And we're going to add on to this a rise up. So lifting up the arms up, then raising those heels, a nice strong, secure balance if you can. Lower the heels, go again. Breath out, straighten the legs, get your balance in the right place. Up you come, no rolling out on those ankles. Think about the big toe joints, 2 more. Breath out, straighten the legs, rising up, lower those heels, and go again. Every time you bend those knees, make sure the knees are going over the toes, drawing the shoulder blades down, reaching the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Let's do one more for luck. Lowering the heels, swing, straighten the legs, and rise and balance. Show me you've got that. Bring those arms out to the side, palms are up. Maybe lift the chest a little bit. Good, and lowering with control as you bring those arms down, feeling like the spine is lengthened. Brilliant. I'm just going to come back a little bit, so hopefully you can see my hands as well. But essentially we're just reaching up, trying to touch the ceiling, lifting up an even amount of these, holding both arms up, trying to touch the ceiling, so looking up, shoulders are up around the ears, the rib cage is flared. I'm going to pitch my weight forwards onto the balls of my feet, just gently tapping those heels, and then I'm going to let the arms lower and let the eye line lower, and I feel like my spine is really lengthened. And I've lifted the rib cage off of the hips, which is going to give me a lovely big gap so that I can go from side to side with that upper body without disturbing the lower body. I'm just going to shut this window. My neighbour is doing some DIY. You probably can't hear it, but it's annoying me. So we're here if you wanted to, so the lowest level. If you can, I'd like to bring your fingertips to your temples. Same thing, lifted, the rib cage is lifted off of the hips. Got that lovely big gap, not causing you any discomfort, but stretching the side seam of your torso. Think about taking this elbow up towards the ceiling, not crunching in on this one. Lifting up and lifting up. And then I'm just going to interlace my hands, place my hands at the back of my head, and I'm going to take an upper body roll around. So I'm bringing my elbows forwards. I'll go sideways to show you. I want you to try and go back first, so lifting the chest up and over, and then you're going to go round to the corner and forwards, round to the other corner and back again. And then I'm going to change direction. Still warming up, so keep this quite gentle. Keep it quite small to start with. Hips, and from the waist downwards, the legs stay still, and you're just folding over this area around your rib cage. Upper body is pretty much staying in the same shape. It should feel quite nice. Great, so just a few of those round. Let's take our Sumo Squat. So I'm going wide with my legs, wider even actually, slightly turning the legs out, 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes past the hour. Sending my bottom back, coming into this braced position, which I call Sumo Squat. I'm going to turn sideways and then just standing. So this should feel really comfortable, really just solid, like you've got lots of support. Again, we're hinging, we're warming up the hips, the knees, the ankles, hands are placed on the legs with the fingertips facing in and the elbows out. So I'm in this sort of international ready position, keeping the back nice and long and then straightening. So there, and then we're going to add on to that, taking it into a chest and back lift, going through the sumo wrestler squat as you come down. So have a little look if you're not sure of this movement. You're lifting your chest, looking up, sticking your bottom out. There's that nice braced, comfortable position. Then I'm going to unravel my chest over my thighs, let the head hang last, and then tuck under. There's the back lift part. So this is why it's called the chest lift and then the back lift. Rounding the spine. I'm thinking about the shape of my spine, the shape I'm creating all the way down. It's like you're unravelling. One more. Stick the bottom out. And again, when you get comfortable with that, you don't even need to be placing the arms on the legs. You can just let those arms hang. If you've decided to take your arms away, notice the difference the weight of the arms makes, especially if you let them hang on the way back up. It should just add a little bit of extra oomph. Let's have a little look at our feet and ankles. Last week we did, the end of last week in class A actually, we did our Fred Flintstone walks. And I just really like to just work through my feet, especially on the first class of the week. So I'm just starting with raising the heels, pushing the toe joint over. making sure I'm staying in good alignment. And then I'm going to add, when I'm lowering that heel, I'm going to add a bend of that knee, and then up to the top, lower the heel, through a straight leg, bend the knee. So now my calf and my shin are getting a bit of a stretch. I'm going to add to that, there's all going on now. So rising up, lower with the straight leg, bend that knee, pop the other toe. Come up onto the balls of both feet, lower the heel, bend the knee, pop the toes. So I call these slow pony trots. And it's like you're sort of kneading your feet, all those wonderful muscles underneath your feet that we tend pretty much ignore all the time. Just working through them. If you've got a mirror in front of you, making sure that you're in good alignment. So there's no knees rolling in, no ankles collapsing here. Doesn't have to be too precise, but you want to try and be careful with that alignment as you do this sort of thing. And then let's just stand on one leg, standing on your weaker leg if you can, and make a fist. I'm just turning my leg out so you can see. Making a fist and then stretching the toes apart. Making a fist, stretching the toes apart. Now I'm keeping my ankle joint really still. I'm scrunching up. So let's make a fist with the hands as well actually. Let's go fist, hands and feet. Stretch the fingers and the toes far apart. Scrunch and stretch and scrunch and stretch. Let's do the opposite at your hands and your foot. So scrunch the foot into a fist and then hands are fists. Then toes, hands or foot, hands. If you lose concentration, you will probably lose this movement. Good, and then let's twiddle. Let's try and keep that foot in a fist. Twiddle, ooh, the hands at the wrists, changing direction. Whoa, that's tough. Keeping the leg still, the thigh still. It might be quite crampy in that foot. Go with it, brilliant, and then just roll it out. So giving your feet a lovely little, or that one foot, a wonderful bit of a massage there. Just really woken up and mobilised all those joints and got the blood flow there. Let's try all that on the other side. So we just started with the fist and the stretching apart. Fist, stretching apart. I'm going to turn my leg out so you can see. I'm creating like a banana shape. Whoopsie. That threw myself off balance. So there and there. So my ankle stays still. It's not the ankle joining in as well. I'm going to come back to parallel. Hopefully I won't fall over again. So fist, hands and foot. Stretch everything apart. Try and stretch those toes apart as well if you can. I was looking at one of my videos the other day, and because my camera is over there, it looks like I'm like that, but honestly I'm not. My everything is square where it should be. Honestly, we're there. Good, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to make the fist, keep my fingers outstretched with my, make the fist with my foot, keep the fingers outstretched, and then swap over, and we're there, and swap over, there, swap over. Good, and then I'm staying in the fist with that foot. I'm letting my arms lengthen. Oh, it's very crampy this side. Trying to stay scrunched with those toes over, changing direction. Ooh, much more crampy on this side. And then I'm going to roll it out. And then change direction. So when you're doing this part, just let that ankle, those toes all go. Push the foot into the floor. Hopefully you're not on a really hard surface, so it should feel quite nice. Brilliant. Okay, so we've woken up the feet, we've woken up the whole body, we've mobilised the whole body. Let's take a look at alignment and be really specific with it. So feet hip width apart, your hip bones, insteps nice and parallel. We're going to take broken down rise and plie in parallel and then turned out. So bending the knees as much as you can. Unfortunately I've got a rubbish bend, but go as far as you can, keeping the heels down. I might cheat a little bit and let my heels come off slightly, but basically there's no change in your torso from the crown of the head to the pubic bone, all the same. So no pitching forwards, no change there. Roll through your feet, so you're on your toes, your heels are lifted. Straighten your legs like we did earlier, and then lower with control. Bend the knees, raise the heels, straighten the legs, lower with control. You don't need to do that with your hands, but it feels quite nice. It feels like I'm reminding myself and keeping it nice and calm to lower through the heels. Let's reverse it for 3. So up to the top, straight legs. Think about that lovely straight line from your big toe joint up to your pubic bone. Like guy ropes on a tent. Bend the knees. Don't let those ankles collapse. Keep your knees over your toes. Push your heels down. Again, I'm getting a good old stretch of my calves here. Straighten the legs. Up to the top. Bend the knees. Push the heels down and straighten. One more, last one. Bend the knees. Push the heels down and straighten. Wonderful. Let's take this into turnout. I'm going to go a little bit wider. My mat's a little bit sticky, but what I'd like you to do to find your turnout is to turn the legs out from within the hip socket. So I'm just going to lift my heels up slightly, turn both legs out at the same time, so my heels come together, and then I'm going to release that again. I'm wiggling around on the balls of my feet just because it's so sticky. In fact, I might just get that forwards and then it's out of the way. Okay. So this is the position that you need to find where you can naturally get into your turnout. So lifting up just slightly. So using the muscles, tops of your thighs, inside thighs, pelvic floor will get involved to turn those legs out, lower the heels. Look down, make sure everything's nice and even. Let's do just two more of those. Lift the heels, release, completely parallel. Lift the heels, turn the whole leg out from right up here. One more, release to parallel. And last one, into turnout. Have a look down. Ideally get your heels together, doesn't matter if they don't go together. Make sure the turnout is equal. Now let's take the broken down rise and plie. So you might just feel a little bit of activation in the gluteal fold. That's perfect. Bending the knees. This is absolutely no different to what we just did with those legs parallel, apart from you turn the legs out in the hip socket. I'm still bending as much as I can, which isn't very much, as we know, but nothing has changed in that upper body. Raising the heels. Again, trying not to let those ankles roll back. So thinking about the big toe joint. Straightening the legs fully, and then as I lower, regaining that connection inside thighs, the heels pushing together. And again, bend the knees are over the toes, raise the heels, straighten the legs, keep that weight probably a little bit more on the big toe joint compared to the little toe joint. And definitely heighten your awareness a bit. Let's reverse that movement. Up to the top, straight legs. Bend the knees, push your heels down. I'm cheating a little bit, but just because I'm trying to get a bit more stretch in my calves. Knees are over the toes. No change here. Last one. To the top. Bend the knees, push the heels down and straighten. Good job. So everything was in its correct position. Great strengthening work for the feet there. Brilliant. Let's go into a mini hip hinge. I'm going to go sideways. Feet are hip width apart again. So hip bones at the front. I'm going to put my hands here because that's where I want to focus. Sending the bottom back. Mini hip hinge because you're only going a small amount forwards. But sending the bottom back, the weight comes into the heels. I can tap the whole of the front of my feet. There is no change whatsoever in that upper body. Just reminding the body how to hinge from the hips without changing that wonderful neutral spine. Sending the bottom back. Good, let's take that on into, move my mat back again, into some narrow squats. So exactly the same position of the feet, same beginning and end is a hip hinge. You send your bottom back and then you bend your knees, hinge much more at the hip, Bend your knees, the ankles will bend, change their position as well, and then we're coming up. Send that bottom back, and send the bottom back, coming up. Trying to keep those knees back past your ankles. So not past your ankles actually, just above your ankles if you can. It's much harder, this position is much harder if you've got tight Achilles like me, but I compensate, or I make the movement happen all up here as opposed to being able to bend down there much more, and then those knees come forwards. So this, you can see how upright I am there. Send that bottom right back. The weight is on your heels. Stay down if you can on that next one. Let's turn the palms down. We're going to take one arm up, ideally up by your ear if you can, and the other arm by your side seam, and then swap them over. Watch that this one doesn't come too far at the back. It's going to tip that shoulder forwards. Just stop here when it's in contact with your hip. Swapping over. This is strong work. Keep that belly button pulled in tight. Keep the neck long. Keep the shoulders down. Be really aware that in the sides of your back, keep going if you can, there's no shortening. There's no twisting. There's no cheating basically. Don't bring this arm up too high if you feel that you have to take your ear towards it. Just keep it a little bit lower. No change in the back. Let's have 4 more. 4, 3, 2, and 1, and coming up. Give those legs a bit of a shake. Good job. Great. So mini hip hinge into some narrow squats and backstroke arms. That's what those are called. We're going to take some one leg balance, some strong stuff. Staying on one leg, combining those movements and adding a bit of a rotation at the end. So I'm going sideways and I'm using my mat as my sort of measurement, if you like. In fact, I'll go here. So I'm going to start standing on my weaker leg. So just watch me for initially. We're going to go into a knee fold. What I want you to do here is make sure shoulders and hips are absolutely square to your front. So for me, that's the top of my yoga mat. Straight standing leg. My right leg is the one I'm standing on. That's the one that's going to be doing all the work. It's really straight and I'm really upright. I'm going to take this left leg back. I'm going to touch the floor, bend this leg as much as I can. This knee might be a little bit more forwards now, it's absolutely fine. My focus is this diagonal line from that back toe through the hip, through the shoulder, coming out through the head. If I had my arms up, that would be there. And also a hinge over this right hip. So in fact, if I go this way, I'm there, straight leg, hinge over this hip, bend this knee as much as I can, try and keep my balance, not doing a very good job today, and then coming up. That's the work. Here we go. So staying on that one leg. Let's just keep the hands on the hips. You can either have flat hands there or just have your thumbs behind, I don't mind. So straight standing leg, thread it through, bend the knee, and straight standing leg. Swing it back, bend the knee. So try not to be here, try not to stick that bottom out, stay in that diagonal line. Fully straighten this standing leg. My leg is, I can feel it already, which isn't a good sign. So we're there. First class of the week and all that. Shoulders and hips square. Woo, focus on this leg, bend and straighten fully. If you wanted to work a little bit harder, in some ways I find it's a little bit easier because partly maybe because I can't bend this leg so much. But I've left that back leg off of the floor, but I'm still in my diagonal line. I'm going to straighten and swing through, hinging over this hip. Straighten, swing through. 2 more of these. I'm going to change my direction a moment. Last one, hold that leg there. So it could be on the floor or it could be slightly lifted up, I don't mind. Keep your hands on your hips, lift and lower that back leg. Make sure your hands are on your hips to think about Are the shoulders and hips, is everything square to the front, the top of my mat? I'm square to the top of my mat. What generally happens is this hip opens up. Absolutely don't let that happen. Lifting and lowering that back leg only. My right leg, my standing leg, is really starting to feel strong. Good. Finishing off. Place your hands on the front of your shoulders. Rotate just your rib cage around. Keep those hips absolutely still. 4 sets, which is 8 in total. Stay in that diagonal line. Halfway through. 4 more. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, handstand. Woo. Okay. Standing figure of 8. Stretch. Pull that leg. Just give it a bit of a shake for the moment. That was really hard. Crossing the ankle over if you can. I'm going to go sideways so you can see. So probably best to hang on to it, or just have a wall or a chair or something to hold on to. But don't let it distort your position. Cross the ankle just over your leg, above your knee. Bend your knee, stick your bottom out, keep your chest out, and you should already be feeling it. I really can feel that already. I really don't need to do much more. If you're here in Quasimodo position, you're not going to feel it. Stick that bottom out, spine in its natural curves. Send that butt back. Now it's eased off a bit, I'm going to deepen my bend, I'm going to lift my chest, I'm going to scoot my bottom back, even more. And I'm actively pushing that knee down towards the floor. Great job, okay. Fortunately we don't need to do anything with that leg on the second side, so let's go, let's do it. So standing on the other leg, lifting your knee, beautiful straight leg, thread that through, hinge over the hip, bent leg as much as possible over on that standing leg. Think about that diagonal line and straighten that standing leg. Bend it all the way through. Try and keep hips and shoulders, your tissue box, that rectangle, keep it facing your front. Especially the hips. Remember, this hip will want to open out. Stay really square. Fully straighten that standing leg. Don't half-heartedly do it. Fully bend that standing leg. Pitch forwards. All the weight is there. So I'm just hovering that back leg off the floor now. I'm taking my deepest bend I can. The hip hinge is helping me to pitch forwards more. Straightening is getting harder and harder with that standing leg. Checking that hips and shoulders are square. Starting to get tired, but I'm going to try for 3 more. Fully straighten. Fully bend, hinge over that hip. Going to hold this one there. Think about your diagonal line. Lift and lower that back leg. Keep it straight. No tilting in the pelvis. Another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands on your front of your chest. Hold that leg up if you can, or just lightly touching the floor. Keep that diagonal line. Opposite. And away from that standing leg without that hip joining in. 6 more. 5, 4, 2, and 1. Yeah. Let's give that leg a bit of a stretch. Figure of 4 stretch again. Just going to let it swing a bit. So when your muscles are really cramped up, it's a good idea to just let it relax a bit. Breathe into it. then go into the stretch. Otherwise you probably will just get a big lump of cramp, and you won't get any effectiveness from the stretching. So bending the knee, keeping my chest up, just sticking my bottom out. This is my tighter side in my hip and my buttock, so it's already feeling a good stretch there. I don't need to push this knee down with my hand. I want to push it down using my muscles. So rotating the thigh out in the hip socket even more. It's easing off a bit. It's still really strong stretch, but I'm just going to deepen the bend, lift my chest a bit more, stick my bottom out a bit more, and breathe. Good job. Coming up and relaxing. Wonderful. Let's go into some nice stretches. So Monday's Pilates class A for me is always a good old stretchy class, just getting the body moving again, especially if you've had a couple of days break. So let's go really wide with the legs, wider than shoulder width apart, insteps parallel, and let's take another hip hinge and just pitch forwards until you feel that stretch at the backs of your legs. Keep the back of the neck long, shoulders are square, the weight is slightly forwards on the balls of the feet so that I can tap both heels, and then coming up. So this is our first proper this is our first stretch actually of the day, apart from that figure of 4 one we've just done. So just take it easy. Let's place the hands onto the shoulders and make sure those elbows are sticking out to the side, just to heighten your awareness of where your shoulders are in space. So don't let them round. Lengthening the elbows out in the opposite directions, holding that there, breathing. Let's just take some circles of the elbows. So your main focus here is stretching the hamstring. So you might be up here, it's absolutely fine. As long as you can feel your hamstring stretching. If you can, lower it a little bit as you get more warmed up. Make sure the back of the neck stays long, no wrinkles, keep that window open. Changing direction if you haven't already. And then I'm going to bend my knees completely. Bending my knees, but trying to keep my back pretty much at the same height. Not the same height, the same, what's the word? Yeah, trying to keep it horizontal, that's the word I was looking for, rather than tipping it. I don't want to be on a diagonal, I want to be horizontal to the floor. But actually, if you are on a diagonal, that's also fine. But keep it the same, so don't bend and don't change the angle of your back. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so we're here. I've got the legs bent, and I'm just going to take my hands down to the floor, and I'm going to let my head relax, and I'm going to walk my hands forwards, but without taking any weight onto the hands. Just hold that there, and just check that your ears are by your insides of your arms, your biceps. Take a little sway from side to side. It's very strong. It's a very strong compression in the hip joint, the front of the hip. That's absolutely fine. No weight through the hands. I can play the piano, just pretend to play the piano as with my fingertips, but lengthening that spine forwards. Hold it there a moment. And then just walk your hands forwards a little bit. Take your shoulders over your fingertips, keeping the hips high, the legs bent, and then push back again. And again, walk forwards a couple of paces with your hands, bring those shoulders all the way over, and then come back again. I'm not sure if you can actually see that. I'm going to just do that this way as well. So we're here, no weight in the hands, and then I'm walking forwards, going over. So just starting to warm up hands, wrists, shoulders, stressing them a little bit, and then pushing back. Great, and then from there, let's bring those hands all the way back to underneath your shoulders, straighten your legs. If you can, keep your hands where they are, and then drop the hips from side to side. This is called seesaw hips. Top of my hips when I'm in the middle, nice and level, and then one goes much higher than the other. It's a side to side movement, not a curving. I'm not shortening in my waist. I'm going from side to side. And then let's take the weight through the hands. Let's take the feet much wider apart. Turn the toes out to the corners now. They have been quite parallel, those feet. But now as I bend my knees and as I swap from side to side, I want my knees to go over my toes. So very stretchy, all around the legs, ankles, groin, hips. Hopefully no stress on the knees, as long as you can get those knees over the toes. Keep the weight through your hands, shoulders over your hands, and then let's turn around to one side. Move your feet, move your ankles. Let's have this knee above this ankle, so if you were wide enough, you should be in that position anyway. This hand underneath the shoulder. We're going to reach up to the ceiling and then thread the needle through. 3 more times. Up to the ceiling, breathing, and thread through. Try and keep the legs fairly still. This can be done with that back knee down onto the floor if you need to. Last one. Thread it through. So we're just getting that rotation in that upper body, and then twiddle round to the other side. Move your weight through over your hands. Move the feet on the mat. Twiddle your ankles, get your toes in line. Get everything back into good alignment. Don't get stuck. Don't be afraid to move around. Hand underneath the shoulder. We're lifting up and threading through. I'm sort of going halfway between my hand and my foot to the far corner on the floor. Lifting up and threading through. Breathing. I'm okay because I'm talking all the time. Just check your breath. Make sure that you're not holding your breath. Again, this can be done with that back knee down. That's absolutely fine. If that suits you better. Last one there. Brilliant. I think that was everything here. Widely hand thread needle. Yes, brilliant. Okay, we're coming. Oh, I know what I need to do. I'm going to put the monitor down a little bit, and if you need to move your laptop to the floor or change your position at all so that you can see a bit better. That was hardly worth it, was it? But apparently it's a good thing at this stage, and I know myself when I'm trying to follow my yoga class or whatever, I need to keep moving the laptop about. So we're coming on to all fours. So all fours, square box position. Hands are underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath your hips. As always, we're going to start in the perfect position. Elbows slightly soft, remember, back of head and neck lifted, shoulders slid down, rib cage connected, belly button drawn in strongly, and then even more strongly when you curl your toes under and lift both knees off of the mat. Hold it and hold it. Nothing should have changed when you lifted those knees off. You're still at your right angle at the hip and the shoulder. You can do this with your toes out nice and flat if those toes don't bend. Absolutely fine. Notice the shape of my spine hasn't changed at all. Holding it there if you can. Another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. 2 versions of this next exercise today. It's about isolating the leg, and in fact just have a little go at this. So use the leg, it doesn't matter which leg you use, but I'm going to use this leg so that you can see. I'm going to release the leg, and this is the easier version of this, just the position is the easier position. But basically I'm going to release my knee that's closest to you, and I'm just going to circle it around. I'm thinking about drawing a sort of tennis ball size circle with the knee. I'm keeping my foot really relaxed. It's a bit weird. I'm not picking the foot up. I'm not moving the whole leg in that sense. I'm just releasing it and letting it roll around. So my kneecap is still in contact with the mat. And in fact, for symmetry, let's do the other side as well. So release it, let the foot be really heavy. My foot is really relaxed. So I'm thinking about the thigh bone just being relaxed in that hip socket, sort of dangling from the hip socket. And then the job of the rest of the body is to keep the body nice and still. Okay, so if You want to do the easier version. This is the easier version. You're going to curl your toes under or have your feet flat. You're going to lift your knees off. You're going to hold it for a count of 10. You're going to lower your knees, relax those toes, and do 5 in each direction on one side, taking the opposite hand to the chest, 5 on each direction on the other side. If you want to join in with a harder version, join in with me. It's basically from the plank. So curl your toes under, hold it there if you're doing the easier version. Otherwise we're straightening up one leg, straightening out the other leg into the plank. This time you're just going to let one knee, just that knee, come in. From the plank, 5 in each direction. If you're on your knees are down now, you're doing the knee circles. If you're in the plank, you're straightening that leg, you're swapping sides. Let the knee, so this time my knee is actually slightly hovering off, but that foot is still relaxed. 5 in each direction. Whoo. Straighten out the legs, come back in, and relax and collapse a little bit. Take your hips back on your heels. Let's try one more set of that now you know what it is. So we're here. So I'm going to leave you to your own devices if you're doing the easier version. Just have a little play about with it, or just take some knee lifts on their own. Otherwise, we're curling those toes under into knees lifted. Straighten the leg, straighten the leg. Drop one knee in, but don't change anything other than that knee just circling and hovering. Stay in the plank, pelvis stays still, head stays still, shoulders stay still. Whoo, change direction if you haven't already. 5 in each direction, straighten that leg. Second side, hovering, circling. It's a weird thing trying to really just let that leg dangle in the hip but keep everything else absolutely still. Both directions, straighten out, knee, knee and lower. And relax. Brilliant. Okay, I was going to add something else on there, but I'm going to pass on that as we're going to run out of time. So let's go onto our backs from abdominals. While you're getting onto your backs, twiddle those wrists around, scrunch your fingers, get that blood flow to the wrists. So we're lying down on our backs. This is a progressive exercise. I actually only want you to do, let's come down to your backs first. Find your base position. So let's set the pelvis in a neutral position. Make sure that lower back is in its natural curves. Pubic bone, hip bones on the same plane. Rib cage soft, collarbone open, shoulder blades nice and heavy. We're going to stick to one side for the whole way through. We're going to progressively make it harder as we go, and then we're going to do it all on the other side. And we're adding things on to the one side each time. Part of this is going to be to slide your leg away and slide it back in again. I'm just going to shuffle up here a little bit more. So even if, like me, you've got a really sticky mat, or you're maybe on the floor or something and it feels a bit uncomfortable, try not to actually lift the leg off when we come to the leg slide position, or leg slide section. Try and just slide the leg away and just almost hover it. So maintain contact, but just hover it would actually make it a little bit harder. So we're starting off really easy with a knee fold. I'm going to use the leg that's closest to you so you can see. I'm placing my hands, fingertips together on my hip bones, elbows are on the floor. Everything else is in its correct position. So I'm just coming up to a knee fold and lowering same side, 6 times. 5 or 6 times. I should probably end up doing extra, but I don't recommend that you do any extra. Checking for no change anywhere. 2 more. As I'm lifting this leg up, and so let's do 3 more, I'm really thinking about this position. The knee is directly above the hip, the foot is slightly higher than the knee. I want you to point your foot and extend the ankle. So lower that down. Keep this leg doing exactly the same thing. We're going to add a leg slide with the other leg. So leg slide, and leg slides along the floor. I want that foot to be flexed when you get to the end, and then we're coming back. Coming back in is the hardest part. Check that this all stays the same. Pointing the top foot, flexing the foot that's on the floor. Legs are shaking a bit from that Last standing exercise. We're here. Let's have 2 more. Knee fold, leg slide. Come back to the base position at the same time. This is all switched on. Flexing, pointing. Be accurate with the position of the legs. I'm going to place my hands at the back of my head now. Elbows are forwards. I'm doing that same movement. Knee fold, leg slide, and an abdominal curl, and a breath out maybe. Breath out, breath in, no relaxing, no collapsing. I'm going to go straight into it again. Breath out, breath in, just hover those fingertips to the mat. Breath out, breath in, 2 more. Breath out, think about feet. Think about where you're hinging from up here. Good, we're adding on knee fold, leg slide, abdominal curl, leg extension even, or leg slide. This is the leg extension. It can be at 90 if you've got the hamstring length. All I want is a straight leg. It can be more at 45. Pointed foot, flex foot, abdominal curl. Coming back to the base position. We're second to last from the exercises. Knee fold, leg slide, and extend at the top of the abdominal curl. It's all going on. 4 more. Keep that head heavy in your hands. I've lost count, but I think there's 1 more to go. In fact, I'm going to hold this one up, holding it there. I'm going to rotate towards that leg. My left shoulder blade, doesn't matter if you're on the other side, it's still clear of the mat. I'm holding this position, rotating around my rib cage. I'm going to flex that foot. Almost imagine I'm tapping it on the top of the toe of the other foot, but it's apart. Pointing it to come back up, staying rotated, and back to the base position. Here we go. 5 more of those. Knee fold, leg slide, extend, rotate. It's all going on. Flex, point to lift, and return. 4 more. Knee fold, leg slide, extend, rotate. Hold it there. 3 more, I think. Flex, point to lift. It's all going horribly wrong with my feet. 2 more. We're here and there, and I'm flexing to lower. Keeping those hips absolutely still, pointing to lift. Grand finale, last one. Here we go. Keeping that shoulder blade clear, and well done. Drop the head down, let the head roll from side to side. Hopefully not too much stress there. Let's go back to the wonderfully easy first part. Beautiful base position. Knee fold on the other leg, pointing the foot. Keep everything switched on. Be really accurate. Remember, if that knee comes in too far, you're going to tuck your under in your lower back. 2 more. Check that torso. Now that you're tired, let's add the leg slide, preferably at the same time. And one foot pointed, the other one flexed. Stay strong with those hips. Stable with the pelvis. No change in that upper body, no ribs flaring. Wide across the collarbone, 1 more. Hands behind the head, elbows are forwards. We're adding an abdominal curl. Breathing out as you come up, breath in as you lower. I have no idea how many we've done. Let's do 1 more. And the leg extension. Knee fold, leg slide, leg extension, abdominal curl. Hold it there and lower. 5 more of these. Back on the counting now. Two more. No twisting, no rocking and rolling, pelvis or shoulders. That was the last one. Should have stayed up there maybe. Staying up there this time, add your rotation. Make sure that shoulder blade is clear. Flex the foot. Lift the foot. Lift the pointed foot. And come in 5 more. Here we go. Extend, rotate and lower. Keep that pelvis absolutely still. Be accurate with those feet positions, those leg positions. Oh, I'm not very good on that leg. 2 more maybe. Bending in and lower. Last one. Rotate, lower, keep that pelvis absolutely still, all the way back up to that top, keep that shoulder blade clear, and lower, well done. Woo. Just let those legs take a nice little loll from side to side. And sitting yourselves up, great, let's roll onto our side. Side lying work today is just inside thigh on its own. And what I would like you to try and do is we're going to work the underneath leg. So you're going to lie down a nice straight line. Get this top leg out of the way, but don't let your knee relax onto the floor because it basically pulls your hips out of line. I want your hips to be stacked. So this top leg we're not going to use it, but try and just keep the foot nice and relaxed. Don't let that happen, that's cheating. If you had a cushion, if you have got a cushion nearby, it would be absolutely perfect to just put the cushion underneath that knee so that you can relax it. The underneath leg is really flexed and my instep is parallel to the floor. And then we're just going to lift and lower that underneath leg. Imagine you're really working down the side seam of that leg, the inside seam of your leggings or whatever. Keep the hips still. Don't let the waist dip every time you lift the leg. Keep the waist lifted away. So foot is really flexed. No curly toes, none of this going on. Every time you bend and lift it, keep the ankle flexed. Great, we're going to hold that leg up the top as high as you can. We're going to keep it up there and then you're going to take 20 little pulses up, even higher, staying at the top with me. Here we go. So 20, 19, 18, 17, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold that leg there, join the other leg to it, extend those feet. Let's take the arm up into the air for a nice balance and just take some marching feet, 10 of them. Another 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Flex both feet, hold that there. Try and lower this arm towards the floor. Don't actually touch the floor. Lift it back up again. Hold that inside leg up, 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 up. Keep those insteps together. No change in your torso. Last one. Here we go. And lifting back up. And relax. Good job. All on the other side. So remember, we're working down this side seam. It's as if you're standing on this straight leg. Don't let it be there, but it's absolutely in line with the rest of your spine. Get this top foot forwards, relax it, but just don't let that knee collapse. It's going to pull yourself out of alignment. Foot flexed, instep nice and straight, and then we're lifting and lowering. Lifting and lowering. Totally focusing on inside thigh, on that underneath leg. Watch that the hips don't join in. Keep the pelvis still. Make the muscles do the work. Keep that top shoulder down. Not much work is going on in that upper body. Couple more. And hold it at the top. We're counting down, but you're trying to pulse up a little bit higher each time. Here we go. 20, 19, 18, 17, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep that leg up nice and high. Join the top leg to it. Get those insteps parallel. Pointing one, flexing the other for marching feet. Arm is up in the air. It is all going on. Another 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stay with both feet flexed as if you're standing. Lowering this arm slowly, not to touch the floor, just so it's parallel to the floor. Opposite your shoulder, lift it back up again. Keep those legs up, keep that inside thigh working. Lengthening the crown of the head away from your feet. Last one. And lifting up, keep that waist lifted. And relax. Brilliant. Let's go on to your tummies. Just going to take some back extension, and then the grand finale of tonight's class is a great big flowing, sweeping movement, which I call a snake-thru. See how you feel, but try this first of all. So we're just going to come up into a full Cobra in stages, but have a little look if you're not sure of this work, because it's quite awkward when you're lying down on the floor. Make sure when you lie down you connect the rib cage to the hips. My legs are hip width apart, slightly rotated just because that's comfortable for me. Pushing the pubic bone into the mat, and I'm just going to have my arms by my side with my elbows tucked in. Have a little look at the 3 stages before we get going. First stage is just tip of the nose, back of head and neck only. Then back of head and neck, tiny bit. I call this a quarter cobra. Then next stage, back of head and neck, quarter cobra, half cobra. So I'm on my last rib at the front, putting a bit of weight through my elbows now. And the last stage is to come all the way up. If you can and or you want to, you might just want to stay on those elbows. Here we go. So tip of the nose touching the floor. Draw your belly button in towards your spine, push your pubic bone into the mat a little bit. Just lift the back of the head and neck until you can feel it almost connecting with the level of your shoulders. Be very aware that your shoulders aren't moving at all. I'm just lifting and lowering. My face is staying parallel to the floor. Now I'm going to take that on a little bit more. Back of the head and neck only, and then lifting a tiny bit more, so I'm on my bottom 3 or 4 ribs on the mat, and then lowering back to the tip of my nose touching the mat, back of head. So you go through each stage each time. When you're in the highest position, think of drawing those shoulder blades down and lowering, just breathing quite naturally. Coming up a little bit higher now. I'm thinking about being on my last rib at the front is just brushing the mat. I'm pushing down into my elbows a little bit. I'm pinning my, I'm pushing down into my hands as well and sort of sliding along the mat a little bit. It's a bit like the chest lift, the sphinx. Crown of the head is high. Buttocks relax. I could just feel myself switching on a bit there. Pushing the pubic bone in and then coming back down again. Couple more of those. Back of the head and neck. Pushing down. And then I'm going to go all the way up. So as I'm coming up, I'm just putting a bit more weight through my wrists. I can straighten my arms, but you might not be able to. You might be here. Try and just keep those elbows low as you come back down. Elbows down first. So it's a sense of lengthening. I'm lengthening out through the crown of my head. I'm not thinking about squashing in my lower back or anything. I'm lengthening out, and I'm lengthening even more as I lower. One more. And a great alternative to this one as well is just to be on your elbows and just lift that chest and stay in that sphinx position. Great, okay, brilliant. To finish off, we're going to have a little look at this movement. Great big full whole body movement. It might not suit you, see what you think. It's just something I quite like to do as a bit of fun. You can just make it the smaller version of it if you want to. So if you can, we're going to take those feet and knees nice and wide. You're going to take your hips all the way back on your heels. This is the first part of it. I've got my hands wider than my shoulders and they're on the edge of my yoga mat actually. I'm going to sort of take my nose along the floor, elbows are up in the air. How you get here is whatever you need to do. You might need to rest your chest here and then lift your back, or you might be able to swoop through without doing any of that. So coming back out of it, lift your hips, come back onto your hips back on your heels if you can. You might be able to, as I like to, hover your body through and then come up. And then to come back, you're going to lower, and again you could completely lower your body, lift, try and lift your hips, or push down and lift back that way. But if you can, lift your hips, sweep back through to here. Let's go again, sweeping through and up, lower, I'm hovering and pulling back. I'm adding on one more thing. I'm going to roll the hands back, rolling up, rounding up through my spine to come up to the head lifted, and then go into it again, rolling down. You may or may not want to add that bit on. Itsy bitsy spider the hands out, hips are high, elbows, what doesn't matter with the elbows, lowering down, lift those hips, roll through, whoopsie, taking my mat with me, one more for luck, rounding down, walking those hands out, pushing down, lifting up, lowering, lifting back, and unraveling. Good job, well done. If you joined me for the whole of that class, fantastic.